Part 5. The Age of Agents.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is maybe the fastest technological shift we've ever witnessed. How AI went from being a simple chatbot to something that can think, plan, and, well, act on its own. This is the story of the age of agents. Let's just start with this idea because it just nails the speed of this whole thing. I mean, just a few years ago, AI was this thing kind of humming away in the background. Now, it's front and center, making us ask some huge questions about where we're all headed. So this whole story really unfolded at a crazy pace. It all kicked off back in late 2022 with what everyone now calls the ChatGPT moment. That one event basically put super smart AI into everyone's hands and, kicked off this massive technological arms race. 100 million. Yeah, that's how many people jumped on ChatGPT in just 2 months. This wasn't just some new app, right? It was a full-blown cultural moment. For the first time, pretty much anyone could talk to a really sophisticated AI, and honestly, it kind of felt like magic. But you see, ChatGPT was just the starting pistol. It wasn't just about chatbots. Its launch kicked off this huge explosion of generative AI, unlocking all sorts of new creative possibilities in a ton of different fields. All of a sudden, AI wasn't just about writing anymore. You had tools like Midjourney popping up, creating these mind-blowing photorealistic images from just a few words. And then in the coding world, AI assistants were writing, get this, up to 40% of new code for some teams. And the really cutting-edge stuff became multimodal, which is just a fancy way of saying it could understand text, images, and audio all at the same time. But, of course, with all this new power came some really big problems. Suddenly, we're talking about super convincing deepfakes, crazy copyright fights over who owns AI art, and this weird thing where the AI just makes stuff up but sounds totally confident about it. They call them hallucinations. It really made everyone step back and ask, okay, how can we actually trust any of this? So while a lot of us were having fun making images and poems, the real story, the big money story, was happening behind the scenes. Businesses were absolutely scrambling to figure out how to use this powerful new tech. All right, so check this out, because this slide shows a huge disconnect that companies were running into. You've got nearly everyone, like 89% of organizations, experimenting with AI. But then you look at who's actually seeing a real impact on their bottom line, just 6%. That is a massive gap. It was like there was this huge chasm between the hype and the actual results. Well, except for one place. The one area where AI wasn't just hype, where it delivered huge, measurable value, was software development. These coding assistants, they became AI's first real killer app for businesses. We're talking $4 billion in spending. And why there? Well, it's pretty simple. The tasks were clear, you could easily measure the productivity boost, and developers were just eager to use the new tools. And what's super interesting is that this wasn't just OpenAI's game. The market got really competitive really fast. You had a company, Anthropic, that came in and grabbed a huge chunk of the enterprise market, like 40%, by focusing on safety and reliability, not just raw power. That competition, it forced everyone to get better. Okay, so here's the really crucial point. All this stuff, the public excitement, the businesses trying to figure it out, the intense competition, all of it was basically setting the stage for the next giant leap. We're talking about AI that doesn't just answer your questions, but actually goes out and does things for you. Yeah, and this slide, it just nails the difference. See, on the left, that's a chatbot. It's a tool. You give it a prompt, it gives you a response. It's passive. But on the right, that's an agent. It's active. You give it a goal, and it works to achieve it. It's literally the difference between a tool and a teammate. So what exactly is an agentic AI? Think of it like this. It's a system that's built to just get stuff done, all by itself. You give it a big, high-level goal, and it can figure out how to break that down into smaller steps, use other digital tools like apps and databases to get those steps done, and, this is the key part, it can even change its plan if it runs into trouble. Okay, let's make this real with an example. So imagine a customer service issue. Instead of a chatbot just answering a question like, where's my package, an agent can handle the whole problem. It can go into the system and check the order status. Then it can check the logistics system and see there's a delay. It can then write and send a proactive email to the customer. And if it still can't solve it, it knows to escalate the whole thing to a human. That's a whole new level of automation.
But, and this is a huge but, all this new power comes with a massive risk. Look, if a chatbot gets a fact wrong, it's annoying, right? But what happens if an autonomous agent makes a mistake on step 3 of a 15-step financial transaction? The consequences could be, well, pretty severe. Making sure these things are reliable is without a doubt the biggest challenge.
So that brings us to what's next, because this whole age of agents thing, it isn't happening in a bubble. It's moving us toward a future that's filled with unbelievable promise, but also a ton of uncertainty, especially when you start mixing in other game-changing technologies. Right, so it's not just about AI getting smarter by itself. We're seeing this incredible convergence of 3 separate revolutions. You've got generative AI acting as the software brain, then you have robotics giving it a physical body to interact with the real world, and then there's quantum computing, which could give it all the power it needs with a 99% drop in energy use. Put those 3 together, and you've got something way bigger than just the sum of its parts. Now, as you can imagine, with capabilities exploding like this, governments everywhere started scrambling to put some rules in place. But they all went about it in completely different ways. The European Union went for this really comprehensive, risk-based law. The US kind of stalled out, leaving it fragmented state by state. And China did both. Pushed development hard, but also kept a tight grip on how it could be used. So you end up with this really messy, fractured global landscape for AI. So, in the middle of all this hype and excitement, you had some really respected researchers starting to pump the brakes a little. They started warning that we might be hitting peak AI euphoria, and that a big letdown, maybe even another so-called AI winter, could be coming if the tech doesn't actually live up to all these incredible promises. And all of this uncertainty, it really funnels down into the biggest question of all. How close are we to AGI, artificial general intelligence? You know, an AI that's as smart as a human across the board. And on that question, the very people building this stuff, they don't just disagree, they disagree wildly.
I mean, on one side of the argument, you've got some shockingly aggressive predictions. Some of the biggest names in the industry are saying that an AI, smarter than any one human, isn't decades away. It's like right around the corner. We're talking 2026.
Then you've got others who are a bit more conservative, but still talking about a timeline that is just incredibly fast. The CEO of NVIDIA, the company literally building the chips that make all this possible, thinks AI will be matching human performance on a whole bunch of tasks by 2029, before the decade is even over. So where does that leave us? Well, it all comes back to this one central question as we step into this new world. The age of agents isn't some sci-fi prediction anymore. It's here. It's happening right now. And we have a huge question to answer. What is it that we're actually building here? Is this just a smarter tool? Or are we building our future team?